Okay, I call the meeting to order for the regular board meeting of the Williamsfield Community Unit School District. We'll open with public comment, and again, I will read. Individuals appearing before the board to participate in public comment must identify themselves by name when called upon and begin to deliver his or her message to the board. The customary time allotted is 2 minutes per speaker. Conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. Concerns, questions, or praises are to be directed towards the board as a whole and may not be put to individual members of the board or administrative staff. The board typically doesn't engage in two-way conversations during the public comment portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date. We welcome our public comments and appreciate your cooperation in following these procedures.
Chuck, I have a thank you to read. Can I read that first? So I don't forget. I forgot last board meeting. It's from the family of Julie Strom. Thank you so much to the entire Williamsfield School District. Mom truly not only loved working there, but loved the staff and kids. And we cannot thank you enough for the love and support you have shown our family. It's from Tabitha, Angela, Cody, and Mike.
Thank you, Becky. Okay, Peggy Sechrist.
My name is Peggy Sechrist. This sounds like a broken record, but these are the following are articles from the Board of Governance Basics. The board delegates authority to the superintendent to manage the district and provide leadership for the staff. Such authority is communicated through written board policies that designate district ends and define operating parameters. Delegates authority to means empowering the superintendent and staff to pursue board ends single-mindedly and without hesitation. A board that does or redoes staff work disempowers the staff. High levels of superintendent and staff accountability require high levels of delegation. And I want to know why these 4 new board members came into this board with a negative attitude toward 2 of the best administrators in the state of Illinois. I want to know why.
Thank you. Next is Nancy Warner.
The ongoing harassment of those who have spoken out at recent board meetings is disgusting. There's the school nurse whose budget was cut, the secretary who almost had to pay out-of-district tuition for her 4 kids, the English teacher who had her tuition check withheld, and the 4th grade teacher who had to deal with April showing up unannounced on behalf of the board at a parent-teacher meeting. Now, I am being bullied by my next-door neighbor, board member Brian Howard. Just when I thought the end of my difficult divorce settlement was near, by getting the judge to approve a sales contract for our farm ground, an envelope with no postmark from my ex-husband's attorney was dropped illegally into my mailbox on December 21st. In it were 2 proposed real estate contracts signed by Brian, which are attached to a motion asking the judge to force me to sell our property, including the house, and to get out by May 2nd.
Nancy.
The following week, Brian and his
Nancy.
attorney, who has a conflict of interest in my divorce case, showed up at my child support hearing and interrupted my speaking in an attempt to force a hearing on this new motion. Even though I'm not surprised Brian teamed up with my ex-husband to pull something after I filed a successful OMA request for review,
Nancy,
I'm still a little shocked that he would
direct
do
your
something.
your
Please quit interrupting her, we all want to hear what she has to say.
Will you please keep
Please
it
quit
short and
interrupting
sweet.
her, we're trying to hear what she has to say.
These gentlemen explained it pretty well earlier, that you don't have the right
I
to
do.
stop me just because you don't like what I'm saying. That's not okay, Chuck.
You are singling out an individual board member.
I am
Has that right?
speaking, I have that right, that's
I'm
it.
gonna single all of them out next.
So.
I'll ask you all to leave if
Even
you
though,
don't keep order.
even though I'm not surprised that Brian teamed up with my ex-husband to pull something after I filed a successful OMA request for review, I'm still a little shocked he would do something this detrimental to my kids.
Thank you, Nancy.
Brian never
The
once
time limit is
contacted
up.
me
That wasn't
regarding
5
this.
minutes.
Thank you, Nancy.
It wasn't 5 minutes, sir.
Keep talking,
I
the published rules say.
Please
5
leave
minutes.
now.
Call the police.
I will.
Please do.
Your published rules say 5 minutes, you gave her 2.
I have the right
You want me
to-
to call?
Limit public comment.
You don't have the right to limit past what your
Now,
policy.
pass your board policy,
Let
sir.
me call 911.
I need to talk to an officer in Williamsfield, Illinois,
Yeah, this is John Kraft. I'm in
Charles Ingram.
Williamsfield School Board meeting. The school board president is.
309-221-9004.
Talk with the Class C. Hello?
We have a couple persons at our school board meeting that are out of
I'm
order,
at the
and I've asked them to
Williamsfield
leave,
School
and
Board
they will not
meeting.
leave
The school board
at
president.
the Williamsfield School.
Hello? I don't know what the address, 325.
325 Kentucky Avenue. Yes. In the boardroom. Yes.
He's not allowing us to address the public body
No.
or public comment.
No. Thank you. Bye. The deputy is on his way and we will have order.
Chuck, I move that we postpone further discussion until this is resolved.
Any second?
Deputy will be here shortly.
I have the motion and a second.
What was the motion, sir?
The motion was to,
Postpone further proceedings until this is resolved.
Is that on the agenda?
I suspend the rules and make a motion to
You
postpone.
don't have the power to suspend rules. You have to make a motion based on what's on your agenda.
We just want to address the public body according to what your published rules say that's on your website.
everyone, just sit tight.
Are you aware that open meetings is a Class C misdemeanor when you violate the Open Meetings Act? I don't know if the board's aware of that, but it is a crime.
I urge you to look at your website, look up your public comment policy. It says 5 minutes. I printed a copy of it. Identify oneself and be brief. Ordinarily, comments may be limited to 5 minutes. It doesn't say anything about 2 minutes on your published policy that's on your website, and you cannot deviate from that unless you approve a new public policy and put it on your website.
And that's not correct. The president has the power to deviate
Think
from
what you
that.
want. Police is on the way.
So your policy doesn't apply, is that what you're saying?
Chuck, why don't we continue with this? There was a motion made, no vote taken. So let's continue with our meeting.
I asked that we just wait a minute so I can think about this. We're still in discussion, the motion and the second was made.
In the middle of public comment?
If I may, Mr. President, are you a board member? Are you a board member, sir? Under your board member oath and conduct, I shall abide by majority decisions of the board or retain the right to seek changes in such decisions. No individual board member has exclusive power over anything. Your own policy and conduct talks about that.
So Chuck, executive session is on the agenda. I move that we suspend the order and move directly to the executive session.
For what purpose?
For the purpose to discuss performance of employees.
Make sure you record that stuff, because if you talk about what's happening out here, you have another thing to talk about. And you're required to record it, I'm sure you know that.
Motion's on the table.
Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
I would rather wait to see what's going to transpire first. I don't want to go directly to executive session.
Any other discussion?
I agree with Teresa. I don't think that's gonna,
It's not going to solve the problem.
this is escalated to a point that we need to resolve it.
Any other discussion?
I tend to agree. I don't think going to executive session is going to solve anything at this point.
Any other? Let's take a vote. Teresa?
Could we, before you move to that vote, we probably should vote on the, Brian, we probably should vote and close that previous motion and second.
Yes.
I believe we said it wasn't on the agenda, so it could not be motioned upon.
Thank you.
Oh, you're talking about the executive session motion?
The other motion.
Teresa?
The question is, am I wanting to go to executive session right now?
Yes.
No.
Vicki?
No.
Tom?
No.
April?
No.
Doug, or Brian?
Yes.
Doug?
No.
Motion fails.
Chuck, since this was brought to our attention, should we just go ahead and go to 5 minutes? Since it was brought to our attention, should we just go ahead and go to 5 minutes if it's published in our policy?
What was your comment, Brian? I didn't hear.
I said no, we should not.
You can certainly motion, get a second, and vote on it.
Not on the agenda.
All right, you're right.
Well, if that's our policy, I don't know that we need to vote on it and get approval.
I urge you to look it up, it's 2-230.
You're correct, you're
Your
correct. The policy is 5 minutes. The issue that we have is we have a policy that's 5 minutes and a practice that's 2. It's an
Policy
issue.
will take precedent. That's what's been adopted in the past.
The Open Meetings Act, if you look up, that's 2.06G. any person shall be permitted an opportunity to address public officials under the rules established and recorded by the public body. You established policy 2.230 and you recorded it, and it's in your policy manual. Those are the rules that state law says we have to follow.
When it says address your officials, it's plural, not one individual.
The 911 operator didn't know when she could get an deputy out of here. She said as soon as one became available, she would send one, so.
Chuck, how many are left to speak under public comment?
It's like 3 more.
Well, I'd like to hear what they have to say. Can we go ahead with public comment?
Yes.
I'd like to hear the rest of Nancy's.
Okay, Nancy, resume.
Should I call 911 and tell them to cancel their deputy or not?
I don't know if he heard you.
Would you like me to cancel the deputy or not? He's not going to answer the guy who's done. Go ahead. Put some heavy over it down on the street, that's fine.
Okay. This is about where I left off. Even though I'm not surprised that Brian teamed up with my ex-husband to pull something after I filed a successful OMA request for review, I'm still a little shocked he would do something this detrimental to my kids. Brian never once contacted me regarding his interest in buying any portion of our property which adjoins his. This type of retaliation and bullying is exactly what our administrators strive to combat. Yet here we have a board member being the worst repeat offender. Perhaps now we know why he took his kids out of the district soon after he got on the board. I know I can stop Brian from taking over my home, but I'm not so confident that I can stop him from firing Tim and Zach. I beg you minority board members to uncover further OMA violations, even if it costs the district more legal fees, to keep these 4 people from destroying our school. Our children are worth it. Thank you.
Lisa Hanson.
Good evening, Lisa Hanson. Some wonderful things are happening at Williamsfield Schools that I wanted to talk about tonight. First of all, I would like to commend the school on sponsoring the food drive. It teaches our kids about giving, helping those less fortunate, and supports the Billtown 9 principles of kindness and responsibility. Baskets were distributed Saturday morning by students and local volunteers. The recipients were delighted. One lady offered M some books. I also want to say thank you to Miss Brawny. I appreciate her communication as a school nurse to keep our kids and community healthy, especially with the rampant flu season. The book fair earned over $1,800 for PAT programming and encourages reading throughout the district. Books will be added to each classroom K through 4 to further promote reading. Kudos to the school for offering roller skating to the grade school children. The opportunity to learn to skate at a young age is a wonderful experience for our kids. And the best Christmas pageant ever allowed kids to learn songs from different languages and different cultures. The kids were engaged and enjoyed themselves. It was a packed house and the parents were impressed with the program. I also want to thank the administration for their involvement for the Polar Express movie. The superintendent acted as conductor and punched train tickets, and the kids enjoyed cookies and cocoa during intermission. The pictures on the website are fantastic. The math tutoring program provides tutoring 2 days a week for after school for all age groups, and Ms. Robbins has scheduled SAT practice for interested sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I really appreciate everyone's work and effort. I would also recommend the board review the minutes of the meeting. In looking at the information, there are 7 board members present, but only 6 members voted on items 6, 7, and 8, but then it states all were in favor. And then if you look at 9, 10, and 11, there's 7 votes cast, and again, one of those says all were in favor. There just seems to be some inconsistency there. Thank you.
Charity Schultz.
My name is Charity Schultz. I'm here just because I have a very simple question, and unfortunately these gentlemen have probably helped to address it, but if I am not to address individuals per policy that's written on the agenda, then why is it if I attempt to address my school board members individually outside of this meeting, I still receive no response? As a voting, taxpaying member of this community, I deserve at least an acknowledgement. There are state representatives that at least send me a form letter. I can't even get a response about questions I have. I would like to know your suggestions from the board. What do I need to do to have my voice heard as a member of this school district? You were voted in to uphold that. You took an oath. You are not following through on that oath. I ask again, what does it take to get a question or concern heard and dealt with by this school board? You know who you are.
Molly Warner.
Hi, I'm Molly Warner and I'm in 8th grade. I've been coming to board meetings for a while now and even gave a speech in support of our wonderful teacher, Mrs. Robbins. I'll never know how much of an impact my speech had, but I was very happy the board voted to give her the reimbursement check that night. But now I have to wonder, did giving that speech have anything to do with Brian not caring about forcing me out of my home? Where are me, my mom, and our horses supposed to go live? Aren't board members supposed to be role models for students? Shouldn't you be setting a good example for children to look up to? It doesn't make sense to me that you are trying to take over my home when everyone thought you were almost ready to move into the house you've been working on for many years. If you win this battle, Brian, will you please at least add 30 more days to the contract so I could stay in my home until I graduate 8th grade? I hope you understand how much of an impact this would have on my life, and I also hope you can understand why I feel like I'm being targeted.
That concludes public comment.
No, sir, I have not had my public comment for this meeting yet.
Oh, you want both meetings, okay.
Yes, sir.
Kirk Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under your board member oath of conduct downloaded from your website, it says, I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote of the board at a public meeting. With that in mind, I understand your policy outlines that you have certain powers, but I would contend those so-called powers of what you can and can't do with public comment are inconsistent with your oath of office, because no individual board member has that power. It's inconsistent. The other thing that was of interest, under item 2 on your agenda tonight, under the public policy, questions, concerns, or praises are to be directed to the board as a whole. As he mentioned earlier, the Open Meetings Act is specific that we have a right to address our officials. These people have a right to address their officials, plural, anyone individually. But in this one, questions, concerns, or praises, what about criticisms? A lot of times our First Amendment gets overlooked, but that's part of grievances with our government. The policies are just absolutely inconsistent with what we see across the board. In regards to not allowing someone to speak about something that they spoke about in the past 2 months, well, your board policy, you abide by each other's votes, but retain your rights to address it in a respectful manner to change that view of whatever that vote may be. But when it comes to public officials, an individual can come in here and make their case, no matter what that case is, every meeting, over and over and over. Because when you limit what they can say to you, and that's content restriction, it's a First Amendment violation of our law, of our federal law. And I would encourage, don't do that. It will bring legal havoc on a small district that you don't want. You can't tell people, hey, you talked about this the last meeting, you can't talk about it again. If I don't like a stop sign in my neighborhood, I can go to that village meeting and say, I want this thing moved, I want it moved, or I want it changed. I can do that until I'm blue in the face, because that's our constitutional right. And when you make a policy that tramples on that, guys like me are going to show up. And we won't tolerate it, and we'll stand by the people that ask for the help, because a lot of people are afraid to talk to you. They're afraid to address the board because of small community, ways things are, repercussions, pressure. School code outlines the public has a right to ask questions. I appreciate that. The legislative intent was to get answers. This lady had some questions. I hope that you get her some answers, because the legislative intent of that clause in the school code was for people to get an answer. Take the time to answer their questions, and I know you can't answer them on the spot, and I don't think anybody expects you to. Some can, some can't be. But get them answers. That communication is what creates a good, positive dialogue with your community. The policies you have, and I don't know who drafted them, I'm going to guess a law firm. Your 2.230 is consistent with what we see with a lot of other law firms, and if you cross that with AG opinions, you'll find they've all been shot down for some of the reasons I'm talking about. The board president doesn't have the authority to shorten public comment when your policy is 5 minutes. I know that's what it says in here, but it's inconsistent. Under the president's qualifications, term, and duties of the board, item number 7, serve as the head of the public body for purpose of the Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act. Have you ever read what head of the public body is in those two laws, sir? Do you know what that means? No comment. Okay. If you would, whoever the clerk is, I'd appreciate an answer to that question at some point in accordance with the school code. I'm asking that question. I don't see anything in the board's powers and duties that give you the powers and duties in your public comments. So I would hope that you would revise your public comment and focus on people's First Amendment rights. Thank you.
John Kraft?
Thank you. I'm wondering if the other board members, now that it's been verified that your policy says 5 minutes, are going to demand an apology to Nancy for cutting her off last week or last month and trying to cut her off this month. I think you should submit a written apology for that. And once again, if she wants to talk about Doug Baird and the directives, she has every right to talk about Doug Baird and the directives. I'm not going to go through the exercise of mentioning everybody by name, even though I know I can and I have the right to. Public comment policy and rules established and recorded by the public body. If you review some Attorney General opinions, you review some case law, and I'm not an attorney, but I know how to read, you will find that restrictions on comments are you can only apply restrictions on comments when they enhance, or rules on comments is when they enhance the public's ability to speak, not further limit their ability to speak. So if you say they can't mention somebody's name, you're limiting the ability to speak. When your policy says 5 minutes and you try to say 2 minutes, you're further limiting. Rules are designed to keep control of the meeting, but enhance their ability to speak. And that's all anybody asks. And Chairman, as soon as you tell me that it's okay if I call 911 again and ask them to not bring the deputy out here because he's probably got better things to do on a cold winter night when the roads are icing over again, I will do that. Thanks.
And that concludes public comment. Move on to number 3.